Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 23 of the Take Your Shot podcast. Of course, as always, I am your wonderful host, Joshua Gitman, and oh my God, it is finally here. 6 days, I repeat, 6 days until the NBA trade deadline. February the 8th at 3 p.m. Know the date, know the time. It's just, wow, this season has absolutely flown by. But before we get to our trade deadline next week, which will obviously be a huge episode for us here at the Take Your Shot podcast, which we will get into in a special announcement at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. We've got a lot of things that happened in the NBA this week that we need to talk about. First off, the NBA has absolutely gone bonanzas in scoring. Luka Doncic, 73 points. Joel Embiid, 70. We've got Towns and Booker scoring 62 like it's nothing. Does the NBA have a scoring problem? Then, something we couldn't fit into last week, trade deadline approach part 3. There was so much big news last week with Adrian Griffin getting fired and Terry Rozier being traded to the Heat. We've got to have one big trade deadline approach segment today before the trade deadline next Thursday. Next, something that I absolutely love, the All-Star reserves were announced last night on TNT. Let's look at this, who got picked, and let's see who didn't get picked and who deserved the snubs. I really like talking about that. That is going to be one of my favorite segments of the show today. We've also got a little bit of a mini trade happening in the NBA. It's not of big significance, but there are implications for both teams, and we will go through that in the show today. But first, we are going to talk about the NBA commissioner, because the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, has finalized an extension that is going through the end of the decade at 2030. Silver has been the commissioner for nearly a decade now, replacing one of the greats in David Stern as commissioner. During his tenure as commissioner, Adam Silver has incorporated many things into the NBA that has made the regular season and the playoffs amazing. First off, something that happened this year, the in-season tournament that Adam Silver incorporated. Again, nobody thought they would like the in-season tournament. Like, what's the point of getting this fake award rather than just going for one award, which is the Larry O'Brien Trophy, the NBA title, the World Championship? Adam Silver made the NBA regular season intriguing, because for that first quarter of the regular season before Christmas, it doesn't really start to get intriguing, because you got first quarter is really nothing. Then you got Christmas. Then you got to look forward to All-Star break, trade deadline. Then after that, you're just the path toward the playoffs. So this first quarter of a season, it probably needed some little bit more juice, a little bit more entertainment, and Adam Silver definitely provided the in-season tournament with us. And then one other thing he did in the past few years, I would say 5 years ago, starting with the bubble, the play-in tournament. Yes, the play-in tournament. It started as an 8-9 thing where the 9 seed had to beat the 8 seed twice in order to get in if they were a certain amount of games apart, which started in the bubble. Then the format changed starting after the bubble in 2021, where the 8 seed would play the 7 seed for the 7th spot at the 7 seed. 10 seed would play the 9 seed in a winner-go-home game. Winner of 9-10, loser of 7-8 would play for that final spot. I do like that in-season tournament. It's provided a little juice. It's giving hope for NBA teams who are sort of in that middle spot to potentially sneak in there for the playoffs. Plus, look at what happened last year with the in-season tournament. We've got the Los Angeles Lakers being a 7 seed, making it to the conference finals. We've got the Miami Heat, who lost their first game of the in-season tournament, had another chance since they were a 7 seed to get the 8 seed. They did that, and they made it all the way to the NBA Finals. So absolutely incredible job. And last year just showed how great of an idea the in-season tournament was, especially since teams actually had success from the in-season tournament. Teams were making runs, sort of like that first 4 to Final Four kind of a vibe, just NCAA to NBA transfer there. So it was really made the playoffs interesting. Really now says the play-in tournament means a lot. Teams want that chance to compete in the playoffs, and if you get in, it's a 7-game series and anything can happen. So it was a great thing by Adam Silver. Adam Silver also, in his first year as commissioner, had to deal with Donald Sterling with the Los Angeles Clippers, obviously making those racist remarks. So the point of why I'm bringing this up is Adam Silver, even though you may not like commissioners in any sports league, Adam Silver has done an amazing job with the NBA, and he's made the game absolutely amazing. He's made it entertaining to watch again. Obviously, nothing's going to be perfect. I mean, it's a league There's a lot of rules. It's not going to be perfect, but Adam Silver has maximized this league, and it's only going to get better. And he's already in talks to make 2 more expansion teams, which could potentially happen this summer and maybe in a few years. But there is definitely expansion teams coming, and it's thanks to Adam Silver. So Adam Silver has done a really good job with the NBA since his tenure as commissioner. So congrats for Adam on getting that extension. Moving on, though, something that is a big subject to me is scoring in the NBA. Scoring in the NBA, let's just say, has boomed a lot lately. In the past year or so it's pretty much had the steady increase, but this year it's just gone exponential. It's gone out of the roof. We've got teams absolutely going on scoring rampages. We've got players such as Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, and all in the past 2 weeks, 73 for Luka, 70 for Embiid, 62 points here for Towns, 62 points here for Booker. We've got Levine having a 50-piece here, and the question is, with all the scoring being boomed, does the NBA have a scoring problem? The answer to that question is hell yes. The NBA has a scoring problem. The NBA has gotten soft. Maybe a bold take here, but we've got to do something to fix this because this is absolutely ridiculous. Let me give you the stats here. We are getting 140-point games like it's nothing now. If you don't score 100 anymore in the NBA, it's a failure. Like you didn't do your job. It is an absolute failure to score under 100 points. Like you're not going to win the game if you don't score over 100 points. It like scoring 100 points was the goal. Like it felt good like in 2013 to score 100 points. That means your offense is elite. Now it's like the worst. It's the worst offense in the NBA now to score 100 points. And it just feels like players these days are scoring 30 points like nothing when only like one, potentially no players average 30 points. Now we got a few players averaging like 33, 34 points per game, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. 30 points a game when in 2013 the best was like 25, and now we got like over like 25 to potentially 40. I don't know the exact number averaging 20 points per game, which is just a wow of you. That just proves like how much the NBA has heavily relied on offensive production lately. And this season, a stat here, this season, 9 out of the 10 all-time offensive efficiencies. This is all time. 9 out of the top 10 teams in offensive efficiency in the history of basketball, the history of the NBA since the 40s, are this season. 9 teams this year are making history. Does that tell you something? I mean, it should tell you that there's a major issue here and we've got to fix it. We have got to fix this scoring problem here in the NBA. Another stat for you, Joel Embiid. He scored 70 points the other day. We talked about him last week. Absolutely incredible. He is scoring 1.05 points per minute, which is 0.01 higher than Wilt frickin' Chamberlain at 1.04. That's the guy who scored 100 points in the game. That's a guy who was scoring 50 points per game in the 60s. Higher than Wilt frickin' Chamberlain. That's crazy. Wilt Chamberlain was scoring, like as I said, scoring 50, like it's nothing. And you've got players like Embiid scoring higher than him per minute. If that doesn't tell you the NBA has a scoring issue, I don't know what it does. And there's 3 things here that I believe could potentially fix this NBA scoring problem. A few of them, one of them's bold. One of them I don't really think is going to happen. But 2 of them, I definitely think that the NBA could absolutely incorporate. The first thing that I think that the NBA needs to do, this is the most unlikely thing that's going to happen. Allow hand checking again. Remember in the 80s, 90s, we had hand checking. Isn't that crazy? People could actually hit somebody's hand and not get called for a foul. I mean, that sounds crazy to me because I haven't been born. I wasn't born when they had hand checking. So I think if the NBA allows a little bit more aggressive defense and not calling fouls every 5 seconds, every single time somebody drives to the basket, we're calling fouls like superstar fouls, superstar favoritive fouls for players like Joel Embiid, who's averaging like 15 free throws, a high number of free throws per game. James Harden, when he was in his prime with Houston, getting to the free throw line every single day. Even LeBron James gets to the free throw line quite often. Superstars are getting these superstar foul calls, and it's a little bit annoying when you just go like boop, they blow the whistle. So I mean, if the NBA were to install hand checking again, I think there would be less free throw opportunities. It would be more rare to go to the free throw line. The games would go faster. It would be a faster paced game. Less time the games are being played. Potentially games could be 2 hours to 2:15 at the max if we're playing a regulation game here. So potentially hand checking may be the thing that could fix the NBA defensive issues, but I really don't think that's going to happen. It's just way out of the blue. I don't think the Players Association would allow it. I really don't think anybody from the NBA would propose that rule because it's just a very, very bold rule. It was taken away because, I mean, the defense was getting advantages. But, I mean, if the NBA is getting really desperate, they could do that. But I just really don't see hand checking happening. Next, my second one is to make the three-point line go back a foot or two. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, people like Wardell, Stephen Curry, Trae Young of the worlds, they are shooting and making threes consistently. Like it's absolutely nothing. Not even those guys, not even the well-known guys. Like you've got guys like, for example, Isaiah Joe. You've got like the Duncan Robinsons. You got the Buddy Hields. You've got Keegan Murrays of the world. They're making threes at a consistent level, and the three-point game by players shooting more threes today than ever before has absolutely changed offense for what it is. Offense is absolutely spiking because if you add up the amount of three-pointers in a game, you got 15, potentially 15 threes in the game, 15, 16, 17. That's 15, 16, 17 more points. And when you think of it, when teams are averaging 100, that goes up to 117. That's a big difference purely off the three-point shot. I'm not saying players didn't shoot it back then, but clearly in the 90s, 80s, but clearly there is a significance here of the amount of three-pointers being taken from this generation to the old generations. So I think by moving the three-point line back, players would be less inclined to take it. Players would attack the basket more. Players would shoot more two-point jump shots because when you move the three-point line back, how many players in reality shoot deep threes? I mean, there would be more than there is today if we moved it back because obviously it's an extra point, but there would definitely be less people shooting the three-point line than there is now, which would lessen the offensive spike in the NBA because at this rate, people are going to be averaging 180 points per game. Like it's nothing. I'm being serious. Players are absolutely scoring out of their minds. Like these players are really, really good at scoring. It's like Peyton Pritchard this summer scored like 972 at a pro. I know some other role player, some guy I don't even think is in the NBA, scored 90 in a pro. I'm like, these guys can score in the NBA. We've got to find a way to limit their scoring because I'm not really hating on the NBA players. It's a compliment for how good they're actually scoring the ball. The problem is they're just scoring too much. It's just looking like an all-star game out there, like the Hawks and Mavericks game the other night. What was it? It was like in the 140s. It looked like an all-star game from 2016. It really just was back and forth offense. There was no defense, and it's just really not fun to watch. I know the fans like scoring, but when it's just lazy defense like that, like who really wants to watch that? Especially true fans of the game. That is just something you do not want to see. So moving the three-point line back could neutralize some of that. And something else, my third rule that I think could possibly be installed. I think the making the three-point line back is a possibility. Hand checking, not so much. But this rule, I think, may be a game changer. Allowing no more defense at 3 seconds, allowing big guys to stand in the paint. Now the question is, Victor Wembanyama, he's 7'5". If he just stands in the paint, nobody's getting to the rim. Exactly. Nobody is going to score in the paint. For the amount of threes we have in the NBA, there are so many paint points. There is a lot of paint points. People are getting to the basket easily these days. Very easy. So if we allow big guys to stand in the paint, I think that would limit scoring. I think even though you have Victor Wembanyama, you're in the NBA. Learn to score through contact. Learn to score layups through guys that are bigger than you. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a finisher. You're supposed to score over tougher opponents in the paint. And I don't. And I think you're really just giving the offense an advantage by not letting the defense play wherever they want. They honestly can just go wherever they want. Offense can just go to the rim and just attack the rim all the time. But a defensive player has to get out. I mean, how does that work? How is that really fair to the defense? I mean, you're making them move when they can just stand in the paint, have an opportunity to protect the rim, and allow that scoring. I know, like, some people may not like that, but this scoring problem's getting ridiculous, and we need to do something. So I don't know. Those are just the options. I think the most likeliest, probably as I'm talking about it, probably not getting rid of defense's 3 seconds. I would say moving the 3-point line back, I think would be the most likely possibility. But the NBA's got to do something because this scoring is absolutely getting ridiculous. Now, it is time for the NBA trade deadline approach part 3. We have got a lot of teams to make up from last week. We're going to go 20 minutes here at this segment. We've got buyers and we've got teams that need to go all in. I'll start with the buyers in the East, buyers in the West. Then we'll move on to the go all ins in the East and the West. If you didn't know, buyers trying to get a little bit better. Going all in is just giving basically everything up and trying to win a championship this season, giving up all your capital, just going for it all. But we'll start with teams that need to buy in the Eastern Conference. We have 2 Eastern Conference contenders currently here with the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks. Milwaukee Bucks currently at second place in the Eastern Conference, and the Knicks currently in third place in the Eastern Conference. They're on fire lately, but I wanted to put them in the show for a little bit, but we're going to talk about them here, and we'll start with the Knicks right now. The New York Knicks traded for OG Anunoby a couple of weeks ago. We covered that. They still have that Evan Fournier expiring contract. They have Quentin Grimes to potentially trade. Could they get one more asset, specifically, just to throw out a name there, Bruce Brown? Absolutely. The Knicks can make more moves. The Knicks could give up more first-round picks. That's something that the New York Knicks have a lot of, and they're in a very good position here for the future. You've got a young Jalen Brunson. You don't have an old Julius Randle, but he's definitely not young, but definitely not old. You still got Julius Randle there. You've got OG Anunoby. Hopefully he resigns. It looks like he will. You've got a nice core there, and you are 1 star away from winning a title. I don't think you need to go all in yet. I don't think the person is there available. That's why I'm saying for the Knicks, don't go all in yet. I don't think that person that the Knicks desire for is available in the market at the trade deadline. So maybe a smaller move like getting a Bruce Brown, giving up a first-round pick. Then in the offseason, when you can trade your first-round pick from this year, go ahead and trade that for a superstar potentially. But right now, I don't really see any superstar options for the Knicks. I think that Evan Fournier contract is intriguing for especially teams who are sellers and looking to free up cap space this summer. So I think that's an intriguing trade there. You can throw in Quentin Grimes, as I said. But I would really look for Bruce Brown, maybe Tyus Jones if Deuce McBride doesn't play good. But I really like Bruce Brown if he was on New York, but I think those are really the only moves. Just get another guard. And, I mean, the Knicks are absolutely on fire. Next, we're going to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. They are buyers, and this is not really for the trade deadline. They really just have no first-round picks. They traded all of them from the Damian Lillard trade, and the rest of them, where did they go? From the Drew Holiday trade where Drew Holiday went to Milwaukee. Now they gave up more first-round picks to send Drew Holiday to Portland. Eventually, obviously, now he's in Boston to get Damian Lillard. So Milwaukee is just pretty much have no assets left. I mean, they have Pat Connaughton, but, I mean, nobody really wants Pat Connaughton unless they're getting a pick attached. So the Bucks really have nothing to do here. They do have waivers, though. They could potentially get in the waiver wires. They do not have the mid-level exception since they are a second apron team here. But they could sign potential minimum players. One person I would keep my eye out for the Milwaukee Bucks is PJ Tucker. Obviously was there in their 2021 run to the NBA Finals. Could go back to the Milwaukee Bucks. You still have other guards you could potentially get here if you're Milwaukee. Kyle Lowry cannot go to Milwaukee unless he decides to sign on a minimum contract, which I would think he would not. But if he decides to do that, he could do that. But I do not think Kyle Lowry will go to Milwaukee because, as I said, they do not have a mid-level exception. So they can really only sign minimum players. Somebody who I would want Milwaukee to get in the conversation with is PJ Tucker. I would like Gordon Hayward on that team, but again, mid-level exception. Can't trade for them. So Milwaukee, look for them in the buyout market to buy and get players who are willing to play for a contending team, but not really much interest at the trade deadline. Next, we're going to move to the buyers from the Western Conference. We've got the Warriors, we've got the Suns, we've got the Pelicans, we've got the Mavs, we've got the Kings, and we've got the Thunder. The Warriors are a little bit of an interesting one. If you're asking me, why would you put the Warriors here in the buyers market here? I mean, I think Wiggins has got to go. I love Wiggins. He played amazing on that 2022 title team, but it's just really not working out here in Golden State. He's got to go. And that Chris Paul thing, really not moving the needle. So if you could potentially get Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins, throw them in for just somebody, just get some help, get some defensive help here if you're Golden State. I would even think potentially getting into the DeJounte Murray conversations, maybe get DeJounte Murray and Clint Capella for Chris Paul, Wiggins in a first. That is a trade I would potentially intrigue on if I'm Golden State. But you got to do something, man. Like Curry's getting up there, Thompson's getting up there, Draymond's getting up there. You've got to do something. You've got to go either direction. I don't see the Warriors staying put because something is not working here. They're 4 games under the 500, but clearly something's not going right, but I don't think they're going to go the other direction because if they do, Steph Curry is going to leave, and I don't think Golden State wants Steph Curry to leave the Warriors. So I think the Warriors are going to try to buy here, look for Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins to be their pieces at the trade deadline. Next, we've got the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have been a little bit hot lately. They are scorching hot. Obviously, that's disappointing start to the season. A lot of injuries, but now their big three is playing. They're playing healthy. They're playing well. They're 8 games over 500. They're doing well, but there is potential to make more trades for Phoenix. There is potential in the buyout market for Phoenix. I would say more at the buyout market, but if you could flip first-round pick swaps for more assets, you could absolutely do that. But Phoenix really doesn't have a lot of assets except for those pick swaps. So I would see Phoenix leaning more toward the buyout market. Again, I think PJ Tucker, another great one for Phoenix. I think you could get in the Kyle Lowry conversations if you do free up money and cut someone. I do think there is a lot of conversations to be had on Gordon Hayward if you're the Phoenix Suns. I think Phoenix, just like the Milwaukee Bucks, doesn't really have the assets because they did make that big splash for Kevin Durant. But I do think they will approach the buyout market and try to get somebody, at least one, maybe 2 players from the buyout market that can help their team win a title. Next, we've got the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans have had a solid season, not the best, not the worst. They were in the upper echelons of the West for a little while, but they've fallen off now. They're the 7th seed, 6 games over the 500 at 27 and 21. I think they've got a nice core there with Zion, B.I., and McCollum. They've got a nice team there in the Western Conference, but I do think they need one more piece to actually contend. They've got those first-round picks from Milwaukee from the Drew Holiday trade. They've got their own first-round picks. They've got young assets. They've got Herb Jones. They've got Jose Alvarado. They've got Trey Murphy. They've got Jordan Hawkins. They have assets to trade. And if I'm the Pelicans, you're seeing this team. This team looks really, those 3 guys look really good. And if you want to contend in the Western Conference, you've got to get one more piece to support them. Maybe that is trading Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe that is potentially giving up a CJ McCollum and keeping Valanciunas. I don't know, but New Orleans just can't sit here in this middle of the pack. They need to do something, and it is time for New Orleans to go. So New Orleans needs to look to trade for a superstar. Next, we've got the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks have fallen off a little bit, mostly because of Kyrie Irving's injury problems. They are 26 and 22, currently 4 games above the 500 and the 8th seed in the Western Conference. They've got an interesting scenario here. They made the conference finals, obviously, in 2022, didn't make the play-in in 2021, so I think the urgency is quite high in Dallas. I mean, the trade assets you've got Tim Hardaway Jr., who who has had an amazing season off the bench, looks like a sixth man of the year. Could potentially trade him for an upgrade. I don't know where that upgrade comes from. It could be a potential DeMar DeRozan. Who knows if you're Dallas? I don't know what Dallas is thinking, but I know Dallas definitely needs an upgrade because if you got Luka and Kyrie and you got one more player, like one more all-star quality player, I would feel pretty confident in my abilities in the Dallas Mavericks to contend in the West. So I think they're one guy away, Dallas, and I think they need to attack on that and trade their assets and get that start because another disappointing season for Dallas. Frustrations could boil with Luka, so the time is now for Dallas. You got to go. Next, we've got the Sacramento Kings. This is a team that I have been begging since the offseason to get bigger. The Sacramento Kings had a great season last year, being the third seed in the West. Currently now, they are the fifth seed, the fifth seed in the Western Conference, 27-19, 5 games over the 500. Sacramento, you've got a nice young team here with De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, but there's players like Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, who you can trade and get another star, like a DeMar DeRozan. There is something about the Sacramento. I really like the Sacramento team. I think the Sacramento team is a very explosive team, a very dangerous team on the offensive side of the floor. But if you don't have the assets, what now? If you don't have the defenders, what are you going to do? And I think DeRozan would be a perfect complement, a nice 3-and-D guy for the Sacramento Kings. I don't really know who else is out there. You could potentially look in the market for a Dorian Finney-Smith with Brooklyn. Royce O'Neal is there also with Brooklyn to help Sacramento, but I just think they need a little bit more. And I think the fans, the team in general is expecting more from the Sacramento Kings because they had such a good season last year. It's only up for Sacramento, and you've got to attack it. That's why you've got to be buyers at this trade deadline. Last team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. I wouldn't say go all in yet. They've got the first-round picks to obviously go all in. Sam Presti, genius rebuild. They're one of the best GMs and executives in the NBA for initiating that rebuild, which is, from where it is now, it's absolutely incredible. I don't think you need to buy. I think if I'm the Thunder, I don't think the Thunder should go all in because I don't think that star is available yet to throw in 5 to 6 first-round picks. When that star does become available, if I'm Oklahoma City, I would attack it, overpay, do something to get that star. But currently, right now, we're Oklahoma City, and they're in a nice situation, second in the Western Conference. They could potentially get better, yes. Would I trade a young guy or two for a veteran to get better and compete to make the finals? Yes. Would I go all in now? No, because that star is not available yet. But if I'm the Thunder, there is definitely a move to be made to get better and contend with the Clippers and the Nuggets in the Western Conference. So those are my buyers for the Eastern and the Western Conference. Let me know if you disagree with them. But now we are going to move on to the go all ins. 2 teams from the East, 2 teams from the Western Conference. And we'll start with the Eastern Conference. We've got the Philadelphia 76ers and we've got the Miami Heat. Let's start with the Philadelphia 76ers. Philadelphia 76ers have had second-round exits for pretty much forever. This is now their chance. They've traded James Harden. They've got first-round picks from the James Harden trade. They've got a young, nice, rising prospect in Tyrese Maxey. You've got expiring contracts to trade in Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, you've got Paul Reed to trade. You've got D'Anthony Melton potentially to trade. You've got Robert Covington to trade. If you're Philadelphia, you have the assets to go and get a star. I don't know who that star is, but if you're Philadelphia, you have to go all in. This is getting frustrating. If I'm Joel Embiid and we're losing the second round, I'm getting frustrated. I'm not happy. And if you're him, I would demand for Philadelphia to get a star immediately. If I'm Philadelphia, you have to go all in. This is your chance. You've got the picks. You've got the expiring contracts. This is the year. I don't care if you have room in free agency. You have to get a star now. Because I don't think anybody – because then you're going to let Tobias Harris walk for nothing rather than just trade him. Because I think Tobias Harris is going to be a free agent. I think Tobias Harris would leave for nothing. And I think if you're Philadelphia, I would trade him before he leaves for nothing. You could trade him and picks for a star. Philadelphia, really, anybody's on the board except for Maxey and Embiid. Trade anybody. Do whatever it takes. Get a superstar. Philly has to contend this year with Boston, with Philadelphia, with Boston, with Milwaukee, with the others of the Eastern Conference. Next, the defending Eastern Conference NBA champions, the Miami Heat, who have been, I would say, struggling lately with 7 losses in a row before they beat the Sacramento Kings on Wednesday night. But the time is now. You're either going all in or you're trading Butler. That's it. You're going all in or you're trading Butler. You've got 1 first-round pick left to trade. You're not getting a star in the offseason. You're not waiting for the offseason. Butler's 34. You can't get a star, a superstar. It's time now. You've got to get a star, not a superstar, but a star to help this team contend in the East. I believe that this team gets the right matchup with the New York Knicks, goes to the second round, gets the Bucks. This team can contend. This team can win the title. They are 1 player away. Terry Rozier, I think, just doesn't really work with Tyler Hero. So if I'm Miami, I would put Tyler Hero on the table and the first-round pick on the table. Something to get a star. I don't know if that's Tyler Hero, a first and Duncan for DeMar, Alex Caruso, and Drummond. I don't know what that trade is for but there has to be a trade somewhere for Miami. It's enough waiting. You can't trade for a star in the offseason, so you got to go for it now. The time is ticking with Butler. You've got to go for it now. You're so close, but now it is time to put in all the chips. Next, I got for you the Western Conference teams that need to go all in. They're 2 teams from the same city, as you expect, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. We will start with the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers, they had a big win against Boston last night, but absolutely incredible. No AD, no LeBron, 15-point underdogs going into TD Garden, win outright by, it should have been double digits, but was 9 points at the end. But if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, you're looking at the state of the team right now. You're currently 25-25, 500 on the year. That's not where you want to be. I understand you made it from the play-ins to the conference finals, but it's not going to get it done this year. The Western Conference is better. You've got the LA Clippers now, who we're going to talk about next. We've got the Phoenix Suns rising up. We've got young rising teams like the Thunder and the Timberwolves. This Western Conference is difficult, and the Lakers are not going to breeze through it like they did last year with the Memphis Grizzlies team who was dealing with the Ja Morant suspension and a Golden State Warriors team who just really didn't look right in that second round. They're not going to breeze through that. This Western Conference is tough, and if you're LA, you need to go for it. You need to get DeJounte Murray. You need to find a way to get him, whatever it takes. I know you're inclined to not trade Austin Reeves, but maybe if you get Clint Capella back, I would put that on the table. But I would probably not trade Austin Reeves, but if you have to, you have to, because the Lakers need to go all in. LeBron's career is coming to an end very, very soon. It's sad to say, but it is coming to an end very, very soon, and something needs to happen. LeBron wants to contend. LeBron wants to win for a title, and if the Lakers are not doing that, he is going to leave and play for whatever team Bronny James is on. Bronny James gets drafted to. The Lakers need to go now. There's just no other answer. There is no other answer for this Lakers team. You have to get better because this team is not going to cut it. The D'Angelo Russells of the world, the Torian Princes, the Hachimuras, the Cam Reddishes, they're not going to work out. So the Lakers, whatever you have left, even that 1 first-round pick that's valuable, if you want to win a title, if you want to keep LeBron, you've got to trade it. You've got to upgrade if you're LA, and that time has to be now. Next, the final team for you on trade deadline approach. Before the trade deadline, we've got the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers have been absolutely flaming the rest of the NBA, proving themselves as the potential team to beat in the Western Conference. They are currently third, 31-15. They are 1 game behind the Thunder and 2 games behind the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this team just looks absolutely stacked on paper. You've got Westbrook, you've got Harden, you've got Kawhi, you've got Paul George, you've got Ivica Zubac. But there is potential for upgrades. Bones Highland could be traded. You've got Daniel Tice who could be traded. You've got young players like Amir Coffey. Kobe Brown that could be traded. The Clippers, I think this has to be their year. And I think if you're LA, you've got to go all in. I know you traded most of your first for the Thunder. Make them pick swaps. Do something. You've got to win a title this year. I think this is the year you have to do it if you're LA. This is the first year the Clippers have been fully healthy. This is the best Clippers team I think we've seen ever in this Kawhi Leonard era, and maybe the best Clippers team we've seen of all time. You have to go for it. You have to attack the situation here. And if you're the Clippers, you see this roster, you see Denver, and that you see you're one blockage away from the title. So potentially trading for a big man if you're LA. You've got to do something to beat Denver and to have a shot at winning that Larry O'Brien trophy. And that is it for the trade deadline approach part 3. That is it. We are done with the trade deadline approach. We covered all 30 NBA teams. I'm 100% confident we did not miss one. And the trade deadline is in 6 days, and we will get to that at the end of the show. Next, though, one of my favorite segments probably of the year, we're going to talk about the All-Star reserves, but not the All-Star reserves, the ones who got snubbed, who should have been in the All-Star game. We're going to bring up a lot of potential snubs that I could have had and seen if they would have made it. And my rule for snubs, for any awards, anything, if you're going to put someone in, you got to tell me who you're going to take out. So I'm going to tell you who I'm going to put in and who I'm going to take out if I am replacing someone with somebody else. So we will start first. We're going to announce the All-Stars, the All-Star reserves here, the Western Conference. We've got Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Stephen Curry, Paul George, and Karl Anthony Towns. So first off, let's just start with the untouchables. Players that I just don't see could get replaced. Kawhi, untouchable. Absolutely great season for the Clippers. Anthony Davis, not untouchable. Could be replaced. Devin Booker could be replaced just because of injuries. Anthony Edwards, untouchable. Number 1 seed, best player. Should be on the All-Star team. Stephen Curry, untouchable. Hit Steph Curry. Paul George, you could replace him. You could make the argument to replace him. Karl Anthony Towns, you could also make the argument to replace him. So some snubs that I have in the Western Conference. Let's start with De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox here for the Western Conference is, to me, an absolute snub. An absolute snub. I think De'Aaron Fox could have been replaced with honestly anybody. I'd probably replace him with Paul George. I know how good the Clippers have been playing here as of late, but Paul George is injured a little bit. But the fact that no player from the Sacramento Kings is on the All-Star team, no player, that is absolutely crazy to me. Not Fox, not Sabonis, who we will get into in like a couple of seconds here. To me, that is absolutely ridiculous. Fun fact, every top 6 team, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, has at least one All-Star. The one exception, the Sacramento Kings. Well, there you go. It makes no sense. First of all, I love Anthony Davis to death, but there's no reason why there should be 2 players on a number 9 seed being in an All-Star game. But there's no reason. But I'm going to replace Fox with another guard, so I'm going to have to replace him with Paul George. But another thing, I don't think AD should be an All-Star just at all, because there is no reason why 2 players who are on a 9th seed team that has been struggling, they're both healthy, but they're both but the team's struggling. Why? When you could have had somebody else in, like a De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis. And I'm picking Fox over Sabonis. I know people would pick Sabonis, but ultimately, if I had to choose, I would probably pick Fox over Sabonis, and I would replace him with George. If it was Sabonis, I would ultimately replace Sabonis with Anthony Davis, as I just mentioned. But De'Aaron Fox, to me, has been a little bit of a better player this year. I think it is a little bit more impactful than Sabonis. I love Sabonis. He's putting up triple-doubles left and right. But I think for the impact of this team and the state of why the Sacramento Kings are winning basketball games, I think you should give De'Aaron Fox the edge there. Another snub I'm going to talk about quickly, Lauri Markkanen. that for that little bit of a period, he was playing out of his mind. The Utah Jazz were playing out of their mind. If they were consistently playing like that, you could have made the case to replace him with potentially AD or Karl Anthony Towns. But currently now they're back to under 500, sitting at 24 and 26, 10th in the Western Conference. So I'm not going to really put Markkanen on there. But he is somebody who, if probably deserves to be an all-star. Next, we've got Al-Farouq Sengun. He has had a very underrated season this year for the Rockets. The Rockets are currently half a game behind the Utah Jazz at 22 and 25. Al-Farouq Sengun is putting up 21 and a half points per game, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Just absolutely incredible for Sengun. Very underrated center. But the Rockets really haven't had a lot of success this season, and for that reason, I'm not going to put him on the All-Star team. Another snub for the Western Conference we've got Rudy Gobert. The reason why, you've got the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. You could put the consideration for having 3 All-Stars in the for the Western Conference's top number 1 seed, but I'm only going to stick it with 2. But you could have made the case for Gobert over Towns. I mean, Gobert has had an absolutely monster defensive season, absolute incredible defensive season. And just for that, you could have made the argument to put him over Towns. And you know what? I'm going to say Gobert should have been put over Towns. If I'm going to take Gobert, I would put Gobert over Karl Anthony Towns here in the Western Conference. So that is something I definitely probably would have done if I was the NBA, because I think Gobert's impact, especially on the defensive end for that Minnesota team, has been absolutely at another level and probably is going to win Defensive Player of the Year here in the NBA this season. Final snub here, 1 New Orleans Pelican. I know could have been Zion, could have been Brandon Ingram, could have been CJ. Probably most likely Zion would have been the pick, but Zion hasn't really been healthy. They haven't really been healthy. They've fallen off a little bit lately, especially when the All-Star voting was taking place. So I think it's okay, but I think 1 Pelican should have definitely been in heavy consideration to be an All-Star, considering they are the 7th seed in the Western Conference, and they did have a great start to the NBA season. But my list for the Western Conference, the list that it should have been: Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, still, even though a little bit inclined for him not to be, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Stephen Curry, Rudy Gobert, and De'Aaron Fox. That, in my opinion, should have been my all-star. Rudy Gobert and Fox replacing Karl Anthony Towns and Paul George. Now let's move on to the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference, let's go over the all-stars. Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, Bam Adebayo, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and Paolo Banchero. Jaylen Brown deserves it. Number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you've got to have him on there. Donovan Mitchell playing out of his mind, especially when the Cavs were on an 8-game winning streak. He deserves it. Tyrese Maxey, going to be most improved player this year, probably. Definitely deserves it. Bam Adebayo, he's had a little bit of his ups and downs. You could make the case to replace him. So I'm going to say he is definitely replaceable. Jalen Brunson, no. He is playing like an MVP, especially lately. New York Knicks, shout out to them again on a 9-game winning streak. Jalen Brunson, no replacement. He should definitely be on that team. Julius Randle, you could make the case for a replacement. He is going to get replaced anyway because he is injured, but let's just say he's going to play in this game. You could make the case for a replacement. Paolo Banchero, yes, again, even though he's played amazing, you could make a case for a replacement. So let's go over the snubs. Let's start with Miles Turner. Miles Turner on this Indiana Pacers team, they've already got Tyrese Halliburton starting for them. They're currently the 6th seed, 1.5 games ahead of the number 7 seed Miami Heat. They've been playing pretty good this year. You could also put in consideration for them to have 2 All-Stars, but ultimately, even though Miles Turner has been great, I would still probably take Bam and Julius Randle and Banchero over Miles Turner. There is a debate there, but I'm going to keep, though, the guys who are on the roster. Miles Turner, though, absolutely balling out. Shout out to Miles Turner. Let's do another one, an interesting one here. We've got Derek White from the Boston Celtics. I know Reggie Miller, when I watched the TNT broadcast, was raving for this man to be on the All-Star team. I mean, he's a great guy. I mean, he's an above-average player. He's a great role player. I mean, the man can ball out. Like, he can score 16, but he is not an all-star caliber player. I know this might hurt the Boston fans, but Derek White's not an all-star. I know he's playing very, very good, scoring the ball, playing decent defense, but I don't even, he's just not an all-star. Not yet. Maybe next year, but he has been playing amazing. You've got to give him credit. But currently at this state, I would not call Derek White an all-star in the NBA. So I'm not going to replace him with anybody. Okay, next guy, same team. We've got Kristaps Porzingis. Yes, you could absolutely make the case that Porzingis should be an all-star. Again, Boston, number 1 seed, best team in the NBA. They should probably have 3 all-stars on that team, considering their starting 5 of Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis, and Derek White. You should probably have 3 all-stars on that team, and I would probably say Porzingis is an all-star. When I've watched him play, at least personally to me, he's been absolutely balling out. He looks like the missing piece for Boston if they were to win a championship this year. Obviously, very bad loss last night to the Los Angeles Lakers without LeBron and AD. But other than that, Porzingis, the Celtics have looked really good. So I would replace Porzingis. I would put Porzingis ahead of Julius Randle. I don't think, even though the New York Knicks have been on fire, I don't think Randle has necessarily played to the all-star standards. I just think Jaylen Brown is playing so good. And ultimately, I think Porzingis might ultimately get that replacement for Julius Randle. Okay, next we're going to talk about Trae Young. Everyone is begging for him to be on the team. No. Man doesn't play defense. The Hawks are absolutely stinking it up this season. Doesn't deserve to be an all-star. I'm sorry. I understand he is an offensive weapon for the Atlanta Hawks, but they are currently 7 games under 500. They're 20-27. They're having a miserable season. They're playing an historically low defense, and I don't care that he's averaging 27 and 11. The defense is terrible. The Hawks are terrible. There's no argument here. First of all, the guards, Maxey, Brown, Mitchell, and Brunson, there's no argument there. And I mean, Banchero's playing better than him. Even Randall's playing better than him. No, he's not an all-star. Atrocious defense. Get better for the Los Angeles Clippers. Excuse me, get better at defense. Then we'll talk about being an all-star. Then we've got Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam has been playing for the Indiana Pacers quite recently. Played for the Raptors most of the first half of the NBA season. I would say no currently right now. There is an argument for Banchero or Randall. I would probably replace him with Randall, but since I'm replacing Porzingis with Randall and I'd have Porzingis over Siakam, I'm going to say Banchero deserves it. I think Banchero should get the edge here. Bam, I think Bam has been playing good enough where he should stay. Pascal Siakam, I'm going to say, since Banchero's had an amazing season and has been the number 1 guy consistently on that Magic team and has really put them in relevancy again, I'm going to keep Banchero here. So my all-stars, pretty much the same. Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, Bam Adebayo, Jalen Brunson, and Porzingis instead of Julius Randle and Paolo Banchero for the Eastern Conference. So those are my all-stars here for the Eastern Conference. So let me know how you think. Let me know if the NBA got it right. Let me know if there's other snubs that I missed or the snubs that I mentioned that should be in the NBA All-Star game. Please let me know at Take Your Shot Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Next, we've got a little bit of a mini trade that happened in the NBA. The Houston Rockets have acquired Steven Adams from the Memphis Grizzlies for Victor Oladipo and 3 second-round picks. I think 1 from the Oklahoma City, 3 second-round picks. Let's just keep it at that. So Steven Adams and Victor Oladipo, both, I know at least Steven Adams, probably Victor Oladipo as well, out for the season with devastating knee injuries. And Steven Adams here will probably play for Houston immediately at the start of next season. Who knows about Victor Oladipo? Because I really feel bad for the kid, especially he played on Miami last year, injured himself game 3 of that first round of the playoffs. Just feel really bad for him. The trade makes sense for Memphis since Jaren Jackson has now taken over the starting center position for the Memphis Grizzlies. So I can understand the trade there and why they did the trade. The Memphis Grizzlies, they did the trade because they want to free up some cap flexibility for a potential another trade that Memphis could do, get those second round picks and get more assets and free up cap space at the same time. Victor Oladipo's on expiring, so nothing to worry about there. To potentially get a contender, build a contending team, get another asset in the offseason to build around John Morant when he becomes healthy, Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson to contend in the West, because we've seen this team fully healthy. They're a number 2 seed in the West, folks. This team is still going to be around, so I think to get here. And for Houston's perspective, as I said, Steven Adams will start immediately for the Houston Rockets. I really don't expect anything I don't expect Adams to be moved again. I think he'll be a nice piece there to back up Şengün. So I think overall, I think the Rockets overpaid a little bit, giving up 3 seconds. I think the Grizzlies clearly won that trade, but Steven Adams is a quality center. So, I mean, the Rockets are getting a good player. So it's a mini trade, but the Grizzlies could do a lot with it. So remember this trade when you're looking at the Grizzlies offseason. And finally, let's get to the Take Your Shot top 5 games of the week. Starting with number 5, we've got the New Orleans Pelicans going to the Los Angeles Clippers. The Pelicans beat this team before. The Pelicans beat this Clippers team multiple occasions. So it'll be an interesting game. The Clippers are on absolute fire. The Pelicans have played decent this year. It's in LA. Zion versus Kawhi. Paul George versus McCollum. BI versus Harden. You've got all the matchups here. It's a matchup of big threes. I think it'll be a quite competitive matchup. But ultimately, in this one, I am going to take the Los Angeles Clippers. They are the better team, and they are sitting at home and are in a great position here. Number 4, we've got a intriguing matchup to watch. 2 highly explosive NBA offensive teams. We've got the Sacramento Kings going to Indiana. We've got Domantas Sabonis' return to Indiana. We've got Tyrese Halliburton playing his former team in the Sacramento Kings. We've got it all here. This is a win-win trade that is being played out here on the floor. I will absolutely love to see it. 2 highly explosive offenses, as I said, should be a highly scoring game, even though we don't like that. But it should be a very competitive game against 2 really good teams. The Pacers are on a back-to-back, and they have been struggling a little bit lately. And the Kings, I think, are hungry for a win after losing to Miami on Wednesday. And for those reasons, I am going to take the Sacramento Kings, Domantas Sabonis popping off in his return to Indiana over the Indiana Pacers, over Tyrese Halliburton, Siakam, and Miles Turner and the boys in Indiana. Okay, number three for you, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves going to the Milwaukee Bucks. I put the Milwaukee Bucks on this list for a few weeks. Doc Rivers is currently 0-2 in his coaching tenure with the Milwaukee Bucks. A little bit of a concern there, losing to both Denver, which probably was expected, but I picked them, and Portland, which was very disappointing. Now they've got a game against the number 1 team in the Western Conference in the Minnesota Timberwolves at home. I think it should be a competitive game. You've got Towns versus Giannis. You've got Dame versus Ant. You absolutely love to see quality NBA basketball, which is why we put this game on this list. 2 teams fighting for top seeds in their respective conferences. It will be a great matchup, but I do think Milwaukee desperately needs a win here in this situation, which is why I'm going to have to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. They're at home, and they desperately need a win. So we're going to take Giannis, Doc Rivers getting his first ring, Doc Rivers getting the win, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 2, we've got a matchup that we absolutely love. The Los Angeles Lakers going to the New York Knicks this weekend. Expect LeBron and AD to play after they did not play against Boston, yet they still won the game. We've got the Knicks absolutely on fire. They're coming in hot. The New York Knicks are the current 3 seed. They jumped Philadelphia. They are now 15 games over the 500 at 32-17, and we've got the Lakers in a 500 situation where they've got to win soon, or else LeBron may get a little bit. Let's just say tensions may rise there in Los Angeles if the Lakers don't start winning at a consistent pace. So I think to get on a win streak here for LA, especially winning against 2 great teams on the road, could be a very big motive boost. And I think this New York Knicks-LA rivalry, LeBron in the Garden, is something we all want to see. But the New York Knicks have absolutely been on fire. They've been scorching hot. They'll probably be without Randall, but it doesn't matter. Maybe even Anunoby, but I'm still going to take him because they've absolutely been on fire. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, LeBron, but for now, we're going to take the red hot New York Knicks. In my number one game, we've got the Dallas Mavericks at the Philadelphia 76ers. Yes, I know Embiid's injured. I know Kyrie's injured, but heck, Luka versus Tyrese Maxey. We've got Luka going to Philadelphia, hostile environment. We absolutely love Luka Doncic. We think he's going to ball out every single night he is on the court. I love Philadelphia's new style of play, new style with Nick Nurse. I think those two teams know what they're doing. They're very well coached, and I think it should be a back and forth game. We've seen Luka Doncic absolutely ball out lately, so what is he going to do next? And let's see what Tyrese Maxey does without Joel Embiid. Let's see how this team responds without Joel Embiid. In this one, I'm going to take the Philadelphia 76ers since they are the home team and the better team, but should be a great game. And finally, before we head off, I've got a special announcement to make. We've got a special announcement. Next week, the episode will be on Thursday. Again, I will repeat that. The episode will be on Thursday, and it will not be an episode. It will be a live show Thursday. We will have a trade deadline special Thursday, February the 8th. We will have it all for you here. We will break down every single move that goes down in the next week, and I promise you that. And if there's a move live, we'll talk about it immediately. My phone will be out. We will get everything. It will be as long as I can possibly do. I don't even know how long it's going to be. We're just going to cover every single trade at the trade deadline. It's going to be an awesome day. It's going to be a lot of work, but we're going to do it. Trade deadline special here at Take Your Shot Podcast live on YouTube. The live stream will be on YouTube. Then will be uploaded to Spotify the next day. But we will have a trade deadline special coming to you this Thursday, February the 8th. So excited for that. And that is all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for watching the show. And remember, please follow on Spotify, Take Your Shot, and on Instagram at take_your_shot_podcast_. Again, that's at take_your_shot_podcast_. And tell me how you would have taken your shot on these takes. That's all my shots for the week. See ya at the trade deadline, folks. Have a good day.